Oh, okay. Welcome to the group. So just I guess quick housekeeping. It's very casual. So if you have questions along the presentation, we have a special speaker tonight. Mike, how do you pronounce it? I'm sorry?
In short.
In short. We'll be speaking tonight and giving us some more of his awesome knowledge he shares throughout our meetups all the time. I hope nobody showed up last month. Did you get my message that we weren't here?
No, I got it.
Oh, okay.
I came and had a great time. It was better.
So I just want to go ahead and we do try to end at 8:30 the formal side. Some of us will hang a little longer while we're cleaning up. If you have any questions and you want to approach anybody, that's a little bit of networking happens when you have time. You're welcome to do that as well. This is what we call a no pitch group. Basically, that means you're not here to actually be sold. But we do promote products if somebody has, or not promote. We do give suggestions on products if somebody asks. What do you use to do backups? Or what do you use for the sharing someone's product? If we have somebody in the group who's an inventor of a product, I don't have a problem with actually that person sharing as well. Because usually most people are pretty open about their path to getting to their products, but which is very educational for a lot of us. So I do like to have those type of open discussions as well as we come through it. As far as events, we do meet every first Tuesday of the month. So it is open to the public. Anybody else that wants to come and join us, they're always welcome to do that as well. Sure that whoever comes, if you have a dying question about internet marketing that's been bothering you since the last meeting or in your life, I guess you can always, if something that's all about, never had a question answered. I always want to make sure that people leave with their questions asked. If we don't know the answer, we'll try to get to you. But if we have a room full of very knowledgeable business and marketing people, so it's a great place to ask questions. To be honest, I think probably about 60 or 70% of our internet marketing, my internet marketing knowledge has come out of the group, and people I've met since then. So please feel free to open. Does anybody have any questions, I guess, that's been going on? Or anything that's, or bring up the trends, things that's been happening? No? Okay. Anybody have internet marketing news? Anything big changes in the industry that you can mention or care to share?
We were hoping you do the news.
I'm sorry?
We were hoping you had the news.
I have stepped into a different realm of internet marketing that I never knew existed.
That's
So,
interesting,
for those who don't know, I recently left solid search marketing as Stephen has taken care of keeping the customers and clients. If they need consulting on certain things, they're all just free to ask, and I can help out with some of the client questions that may come up for some things that I may have been specialized in. But I now work for a company called Max Plus. They sell a lot of lamps at home, decor type items. And I've been put into the marketing department. So I work on their paid search. And the volume of a company or corporation that size has put me in a different level of exposure of how to do it. Strategies are completely different in small business. So there's a lot I can't share about it, really, because for one, it's not going to mean anything to anybody. But, I'm sorry?
Doesn't apply to.
It doesn't apply to actually most marketing unless you're a huge corporate. To be honest, there's a lot of paid tools that actually automate paid per click that's been out there. I've seen and talked to a lot of these people that sell these tools, and it's been so far the price range. I'm thinking, how do they survive? Because who would afford it? And to be honest, when you have a company that does multi-millions of dollars, any company that does multi-millions of dollars, you cannot have just 2 or 3 people doing your advertising like that. You need to have automated tools. And when I actually balance how many people it would take to manage an account this large, the software is like 1/10 the cost of how much labor it would cost to really maintain. I mean, and it's tens of thousands of dollars per month for software like this that runs. I was familiar with a company called Marin. It's not what we use at a company called Marin. They would take whatever you spend, 10% of your ad spend would go. That's how much they would, or 10 or 15%, how much they would make their software work. because of the volume that's coming through it. And I sat in a presentation where we were at a conference once, and their, I guess, highlight of their presentation of their boasting, I guess, of what they said about the government was they said that they actually had literal rocket scientists develop their algorithms on how to expand this. I would think, I mean, you know those guys are hundreds of thousands of years, now thousands. But to see what the software does, so just give you an idea of how it can be done on a larger scale if you're interested. And this part is just basically you tell it what you want to hit as your ROI, your return on your investment for money, and it goes to hundreds of thousands of keywords, adjusting bids based on historical levels, and it's just like a rocket, how it aims at the moon, and it's always adjusting left, then right. It's not straight and left. It makes calculations constantly to go and hit things like chips in the ocean. Same thing. They're always making these little minor adjustments to stay on track. And that's what it does. And if you change the target, it really starts to shift and makes minor adjustments. And if you need, like I said, I could not believe these people were charging so much for software in the past. And now that I see the scale and the volume of it, so honestly, I'm the dumbest guy in the room. It's really one of the most intimidating things to me. It's amazing when I'm learning. But even the vocabulary is completely different from what we know of. They don't do bid adjustments. They do algorithm adjustments. They do big things. And all ratio for the size and magnitude. I mean, the people that all run around also had similar volume sizes. So I guess that's kind of around what I'm learning now. So in this case, the only thing I can tell you right now is I went to a conference in Washington called SMS Advanced, which is a what they call a rapid search. So the Google sensors that were there, they talk heavily about AMP. Has anybody heard of AMP?
EMP?
Yeah. Accelerated mobile pages. So new to me when I was there at this conference, I looked it up after, and it's something that actually Google is highly recommending everybody look into. People who are talking about moving over to AMP and that did it had mixed results. Nobody is conclusively saying it did really well, but it does accelerate your pages, is what it's supposed to do, and it's a third time that goes into it. So you really want to make sure you look into this because Google continuously push the fact that the faster you move page learning, and will be part of the SEO and PPC algorithms, conversion rate improvement, and all those other things. So AMP is hiding something.
Is it a platform or a plugin?
It is a.
Wow.
If you have WordPress.
Yeah. It's
It's a protocol.
Yeah. So in some way, when you website, I don't know how that thing works. I'm moving my website over to WordPress. For those of you who know, I had a website that makes ad revenue. That's built 6 years ago. Had to change it since. They didn't use WordPress. Ugly site on the web, but it does really well for ad revenue because people love it. They click on the ads, not realizing that's an ad. But I need to go to WordPress, so that's what I can make. That's some software I built the site on. They no longer support it. It's gone. So I'm using
Probability?
Yes, no,
Divi? That's from site.
The
Oh, so you got Divi things.
So Divi Themes is using a tool that Divi Themes that you can customize your own theme for WordPress. So you can design. Honestly, I one over to the new one, so but now I can use WordPress so I can update because I've updated it in 6 years. And we're actually seeing my ranking move back up. I don't know why. I'm honestly thinking a lot of the other people. I'm kind of worried about going over to WordPress too, but I can't change my site, so I need to do it. But I am worried that my site is based on HTML, and clearly that's why it's just faster. I didn't my opinion on that. But it is not, of course, mobile friendly because back then they didn't have mobile friendly features too old on that one. So my wife and I both actually moving the sites onto that because we want to see if we can go and get some. So that's pretty much what on my site and what I heard about the next one. I didn't really learn a whole lot else there after the conference, other than they were talking about app and improving and mobile designs.
Actually, just other news.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how new, but well, two things. One of the things my partner and I have been working on quite a bit now is ringless voicemail. agreements, voicemail drops, and text messaging. You know, we're getting to the point that anyone who knows how to make autoresponders for email, you can now do this in a way that pops messages into people's voicemail and text. And it's so much more powerful because they actually read them and respond to them, right? So that technology is really powerful, especially for reactivating past customers. If you ever listen to folks' cell phones, the ability to broadcast to them really inexpensively and efficiently, and create a call to action and do it in a pipeline-like way is really powerful. That's relatively old. That's been developing over the last year or so, but that's a new tool that is really important. And then I don't know how new this is. You guys probably do, but I just heard about it, which is that Google Local now has embedded texting capability. So someone who looks your site up on the web has now a message button, and they can click on a message button and begin texting. So you can be in an interactive text chat folks with folks on your site. So just like and some of the customers we work for use live chat, which is an extremely powerful thing to have. Well, this is now Google kind of getting into that space, but using texting as a mechanism. So I think that's going to grow, and that's going to launch.
Another thing to watch for Google Beacon. I don't know if Google is actually installing hardware into brick and mortar stores. So we were walking by a Bath and Body Works in a mall, and I got an email from Bath and Body Works. I'm on the mailing list. Okay, so I'm not surprised I get this coupon. And it was a fantastic deal, because I showed my wife, well, what are the chances that we're having to walk by and I get this email right now for a time? And I do know that they actually have been installing beacons in Bed Bath & Beyond in the past. 2 years ago, at a conference, we were talking about how they could even track where you walk in the store, and if you click on an ad, they'll bounce you to the store. Well, these beacons now, I found out, because I actually had a chance to talk to Google people about the beacon and how that Bath & Body was emailed me at the time, and they said it's open source. That once they install it, they can actually go ahead and have programmers get into it, and they can design it so that, one, it does pick up who is where, especially if you have a Gmail logged in. My phone is always by Gmail and always hits. So it can also do that as well. So this is something that's going to be really huge. Google also was not afraid or ashamed to say that they're also buying credit card data now. So they're also moving into the realm of how Facebook has like audiences. They're really moving into the profiles, and they're touting that they're going to have I don't think it's ever going to be as good as Facebook, because everybody shares all their real personal information on Facebook. But Google's not. Google has so many other metrics or other ways to reach to get data about people that they have actually really great ways to find out how to find other things. So their platform when you're right is better and better as well. They did say that when it comes to actual data, they are absolutely receiving data that's completely scrubbed of people's personal information, but then what to use with that? I mean, that's what I think. I don't know how where that balance would come out. So that's just some of the things that I did. I guess I did learn more than I thought. They were going over some pretty advanced stuff. Since I'm no longer an SEO, it was a conference of SEO and PPC separately. I never had a chance to go to the SEO. But the people that I did talk to from the SEO side, a lot of it was fundamental. And then, of course, they're talking about the speed of pages as well on that side, and how things are moving forward. With the SEO.
So when you say speed of pages,
Yes.
is that how
Yes. So speed is actually a factor that is, they are absolutely open about saying that it is a factor for the improvement of ranking both in actual the paper as
to do with the page rather than the device that's having issues?
happens for mobile. So they're actually more targeting a lot of mobile tons.
No, but I mean, it's slower than others. That's why.
Well, the thing is, so if you have a page that goes really slowly, and you have a phone that's on even more source, but it's going to be relative. So the page moves faster on most phones, and your phone is slow. It's still going to move faster than slower pages. So it's still the relativity of that how it goes, and they actually are running through that. But that's one of the ways to try to. And honestly, like the same thing. I think app is just another way for Google to get data off people. What's going on? Because it's protocol, but also it runs through something that they have.
You can actually test the mobile speed on Google's test site to test the mobile, how your site would be. It was actually running. Yeah.
Really?
So test the mobile speed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about, I mean, if you do a Google search for that, your Google website, you can do all that stuff. You can actually get a rating score on that. Okay, but I don't want to source.
One more thing real quick, just an observation. For those of you that are in e-commerce, one thing I did see, I don't know how new this is, but on YouTube, under like reviews, if somebody's reviewing like a safe, there's a big fat ad spot right there. It almost looks like not Google product, like the product listing, where you can buy that space right underneath the person that's advertising. I don't, or that's
Really?
review. Yeah, I only saw it on a few, but I was like, oh my gosh, if they're reviewing a certain type of safe, we take up that one spot right there. Sure.
I think you have to accept the advertising.
Oh,
Like you
okay.
have to be in AdWords.
You're talking about in Google results? Or
In YouTube, right underneath the YouTube video. You know how they will usually put the affiliate link in the description? You kind of hijack their video. I guess if they let you. But I thought that was just worth a note.
Oh, another thing that they're actually doing too is you can actually add images now to text ads. There's a lot of qualifications. I mean, you have to, but you also have to be accepted into it. You can ask to see if you can accept into the program, and then you can add images to text ads, which that's going to change the game a lot. Images are very, very common. I would like to go in real life at this time because I don't want to get too much of his time, and the information he has, I know is just going to be awesome for us tonight. And
That's it. Bottom line approaches, we do marketing and small businesses. Thanks. And one other thing, by the way, that I just recalled, on the voicemail and phone stuff, they now have a capability. It's called Advanced Caller ID. That when someone calls you, if you pay for this feature, you get a scary amount of information about them when they connect. Spouse name, income, everything that they can get and scrape is available. So to the extent you take inbound sales calls, where it's important to you, useful to you to know, as you position what you're talking about with people, it's like I say, it's a scary, very
The privacy stuff that's happening in Congress.
Do you want to start up the PowerPoint piece for me, just so I know? Thanks. By the way, as I was walking through the store, there's a title of a book that I just love. What is it? If ignorance is bliss, why are so many people and so many of us unhappy? So, today's talk has got a little bit of everything in it, and I will go through as quickly as I can because, as is typical, I throw a lot of stuff in here. But it's really exploring the intersection of business and marketing with what I call the 5-step profit formula, and how marketing underlies that, and what some of the real fundamentals of marketing are, because we can, and in fact, it's the great news about this group is we're always looking at things on the bleeding edge and what's changing, but the fundamentals of marketing really rarely change, and it is a danger to get caught up in the latest shiny object and lose track of the fundamentals. So this is more about fundamentals than it is about specifics. And let's see if I can navigate. Here we go. So we're going to talk about some sales and marketing approaches that you can apply in your business starting today if they're useful to you. We're going to talk about some tactics and strategies. Because of the time, I'm going to skip this part of getting people to talk about themselves. I want to talk first of all, everybody familiar with the Pareto principle? Old Italian economist, also turns out he was an engineer, who essentially defined that or found that 80% of the value, 80% of the return you get in your business, the value of your life, the happiness in your relationship, 80% of those things come from 20% of the effort. And one of our challenges to get better and better at what we do is to find what those key 20% things are. And it's probably, if we ever want to do it, the subject for an entire presentation on its own. Because it turns out it's what's called recursive, right? An example of that is if you run a Starbucks and you do $5,000 worth of business in the first 2 hours of the day, it's almost certain that 80% of that, $4,000, came from 20% of your customers. But it's also true that of the 80% of the 4,000, right? 80% of that came from 20% of those customers, meaning 4% of your customers were 64% of your business. And it goes another level, right? 80% of 4%, you're now down to 0.3% is on the order of 30% of your return, which is why it's really important to study what kinds of results you get from your different sources of marketing, from your different kinds of clients, from your different kinds of activities. So one of the things we're going to talk about is, where's the real 80-20? Where's the real 80-20 of profits in business? And that leads us to what I call the 5-step profit formula. And you've heard that, I can't remember who said it, compound interest is one of the most powerful things in the world, right? Well, it turns out that there's compounding that goes on within a business as well. Because if you think about where your profits come from, it's really a sequence of 5 steps. And I apologize, one of these days we're going to spring for a bigger presentation because you probably can't read a thing that's up there. But the 5 steps are basically more leads, more conversions of those leads into customers, more transactions, so the people become customers, how often do they buy, higher prices, what do they pay when they do so, and more profits out of what they pay you. And it turns out those things are multiplied together, like compound interest. As a result, if we take that and we make incremental changes in individual pieces of that, which is our job as marketers, every one of those things, in fact, have to do with how we market, we end up with these kind of financial results. And I've just kind of built a basic one here. Again, hard to read, I'm going to tell you what's there. If we have a baseline business that gets 1,000 leads, converts 25% of those into customers, that gives you 250 customers, and they buy 10 times a year at $100 a piece, you have $250,000 worth of revenue. And if 25% of that ends up in your pocket, you have a business that puts $62,500 in your pocket, right? Pretty straightforward. I'd encourage, by the way, you have to know what your business looks like in that kind of a model. Sometimes you can get more complicated because your leads come from a website and people do something before they become leads that call you on the phone, which you then convert again in another way. But this pipeline is really important. But to show kind of the power, the compounding power of this, if we were to take each of those numbers and improve them just by 10%, right? If we were to make our leads go up by 10% to 1,100 and our conversions go from 25 to 27.5, we now have 303 clients. And if instead of people buying 10 times a year, they bought 11, and instead of paying $100, they paid 110, we now have revenues of 366 instead of 250. And if our profit went from 25% to 27.5%, we'd now be putting over $100,000 in our pocket. In other words, making those 10% changes almost doubled the profit in our business. And frankly, 10% for the kind of intelligence and experience in this room and the kind of capabilities that are out there to do this well is child's play. You'll hear me say that a couple times. If we go one step further and look at 50% increases, and frankly, I don't think 50% is, I think 50% is easy in some of these categories and hard in others. Raising your price is 50%, although we're going to talk about that. It's not really raising the unit price on something by 50%. But raising some of these things 50% is harder than in others. But if you were to do the same thing and make a 50% increase across the board, that business that put $60,000 in your pocket now puts over $450,000 in your pocket. Okay. That 50%, those of you who think mathematically, that 1.5 to the fifth, right, which is what's underneath this thing, gives you 760% increase. weak marketing message and a powerful marketing message will change the number of leads you get, the fraction that they'll convert, and the kind of pricing they're willing to pay. And oh, by the way, when we talk about this profit at the bottom, if your business is now doing 4 times the volume, margins are going to go up. You're going to buy in more volume. Your fixed costs are going to be spread over a higher volume of things. Some of this happens naturally. So getting your messaging right pays off in many ways, and it compounds. There's nothing more important fundamentally in your business than that piece. So you can fundamentally transform your business if you focus in these 5 areas. And as I said, getting high-performing marketing underneath these pieces right pays off in ways that most people don't understand. So what I'd like to do is talk about then some of the strategies and tactics in each of these areas, just to give you an idea, right? In our kind of coaching and consulting side of things, depending on the kind of business you are, we have 104 different strategies. We're going to talk about like 6 of them tonight. But they all have an impact, a very powerful impact on these 5 areas. So let's first talk about more of these, right? And to do so, in my world, what underlies marketing is getting 3 things right. And we're gonna define this. There are a number of people who talk about this, and I'm going to try and create a model that fits a lot of people's way of talking about this. But we like to say, have something good to say it well, and say it often. That's the fundamental issue to sales and marketing, right? Repetition must be there. You're not always going to catch people when they're ready to buy. You need this stuff to sink in fundamentally. Whatever it is you have to say, you have to learn how to say it powerfully. You could have a fundamentally well-differentiated company, but if you don't describe those differences in action-packed, emotion-laden words, you will not get the response you will than if you deal with it otherwise. And fundamentally, if you don't have anything good to say, if you look like everybody else, right? Turns out you can say it better and say it often and still beat them. But if you can innovate and be fundamentally superior, that helps. A guy named Dan Kennedy, who's probably one of the most experienced, highest paid direct marketers on the planet, talks about marketing as a combination of 3 things: market, message, and media. And if we look at that, I like to say your market is getting your niche clear. And one of the things I promised to talk about. I want to spend a second talking about that, because getting a niche and committing to a niche is one of the things that small business owners have. They're terrified of niche, right? And yet it is the way to success, right? Getting your message right is putting what it is you do better into words that are compelling to people. And again, getting it in front of these folks, and your media has to match your niche, right? One of the reasons you try to understand who you're talking to is to make sure that you're putting it in magazines, putting it at the kind of websites, putting it in the physical locations where your people hang out. Okay? So when we talk about niches, the example I like to use that I think is the clearest is, let's pretend we were all going to run a restaurant, right? Now, we could run a variety of different kinds of restaurants, right? We could run a kid and family-friendly restaurant. Lots of video games, lots of noise, lots of lights, right? Lots of activity going on. We could run a romantic restaurant where the idea is it's a destination, it's quiet, dark, intimate, high-end food. We could focus on business events. We could go for low price. We could go for high price. I think you can see when we talk about it in a restaurant context that you can't be all those things, right? You cannot be a restaurant that is an intimate getaway and a great place to take a Jew, right? Now, you could maybe have 2 restaurants at back end. You might even set up a daycare for the front end so mom and dad can get away from that intimate, getaway. You could run it as a kid-friendly thing through lunchtime and something else at night, right? But you can't do them both at once. And by the way, if you try, and you can see how kind of silly it is in the context of a restaurant, and yet we do this with the rest of our businesses. If you go to a website that says, here's the place for the kids with the video games and ding, 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 and here's the YouTube video of that, and here's where mom and dad can be over here doing this, and look at this catering and hauling away pounds and pounds of this stuff to your corporate event, right? Someone who comes there with a particular need in mind is going to be confused, or is just not going to see what they want. So you have to be clear, and for people who are afraid to niche, my message is pick several, but communicate to them differently. Don't try to, on one website or one landing page out of AdWords or a Facebook ad, speak to them all. Speak to them separately because they speak a different language, they have different hot buttons, they have different trigger points, and in fact, when you get into, and I think we've had other people here talking with us about having, sorry, what are they called? The personas that are used, avatars. Thank you. To have an avatar for who you're speaking to. That getting to that niche all the way down to an avatar, so you know where they hang out. How old are they? What else is going on in their lives? And I think Marisa Murgatroyd was in here talking about when you build your message around a niche and you talk about what you bring. A lot of folks get really clear on, you don't talk features. Features about you, talk about benefits, right? Well, that's a step in the right direction, but you want to go further than the benefits. You want to talk about the result it gets them, and ideally the transformation, right? If you have a tutoring business, right, you want to talk about the fact that your child's future is assured. They're going to get into a great college as a result of doing this. You don't want to get down to homework is going to be done better, or the tutors that we provide you have higher GPAs than anybody else's tutors. You want to focus on the transformative part. Okay, so as I say, niching is a challenge for everybody, and it's scary as hell, right? Because you feel like you're abandoning folks. And it doesn't mean, by the way, if somebody responds through your niche and says, if somebody calls your intimate restaurant and says, hey, I notice you're closed Mondays, are you willing to do something special on that day for me? I'm willing to pay a lot of money. Yes, right? It just means don't put that on the same landing page where you're pitching your core value.
There's a shop down in 7 on the valley that has donuts and computer repair in the same shop.
Target law enforcement?
There's donuts and dogs.
There's
Donuts for breakfast and hot dogs for lunch. They're actually pretty good.
Yeah, but about food. This I don't know. They're going to pour computer repair or really bad donuts.
Well, and interestingly enough, combinations can do great things, right? That's where you get it when you watch the Shark Tanks of the world. Right? Take this niche and add a membership program to it. Or, I had a friend once who wanted to create a and bar, because its target niche was going to be upwardly mobile professionals who had to do the damn laundry but didn't want to sit around the laundromat with nothing fun to do, right? So, but that was a very clear niche. Just because it was a combination didn't make it bad, right? So, it's called studs.
Oh, really?
Very cool. All right, so we're talking about more leads. We're talking about getting the message right to do that. So I want to take a look at a cosmetic surgeon. This cosmetic surgeon was getting 35 leads a month out of Facebook ads, right? And this was the ad. It's a, attractive 20-something with a headline and a very elegant picture that says, "Nurture the body that will provoke true envy." Right? Now, by the way, interesting niche potentially, but this person's niche was mommy makeovers. So the question is, and you've probably heard this word before, does that ad grab people by the conversation going on in their mind? Is a mom who's considered a mommy makeover thinking about creating envy, a body that will create envy? Now, maybe, but I wouldn't claim it's one of the top 2 or 3. Right? Getting the message right looking at market message and media. So the target was women 30 to 45 with 2 or more kids, right? You think that resonates more than, create envy? And Facebook, direct mail, radio, TV, but just the difference in that message went from 30-ish leads per month to between 300 and 500 leads per month, because the difference in the way the headline was. That was an 1,100% increase in leads. So when we talk about 10 or 50% increases, depending on where your message is at, if it's already fine-tuned, maybe 10 is all you could get. But there are an awful lot of messages out there that are not spot on for their market message immediately. Here's another example, daycare. Daycares all look the same. Here is their postcard. Back to school, now enrolling, great location, free nutritious food. They were getting, it was mailed out to every home within a 5-mile radius. And they were getting 0 calls. Now, daycares are really interesting. There are lots of ways to pick a sub-niche. Right? In this particular case, they chose a target of parents who wanted their kids better prepared for school and better educated, and didn't want them to be unchallenged, but wanted to stimulate. And their message was, we guarantee your child will be reading at first grade level prior to getting into kindergarten. Right? Targeted direct mail, same. Educational curriculum, watching Barney on TV. Would you like a child to read your first grade level before you start in kindergarten? Right? Here we have 22 stations off computer. One was specifically designed to the needs of accelerated children. Focusing right on top of that niche, with a message speaking directly to them. And the difference, and the result was, they launched this postcard campaign. The postcards you saw them up there. They had 58 leads in the first week. You'll clear out in the second line. They went. They're full. Right? Where they've been getting nothing before out of their leads. So the key takeaway is the secret to generating more leads is getting your market message and media right, which means getting really clear on your niche, getting the message right on top of it, and when you're clear on your niche, putting the message on the right place. It's the obvious stuff, but it's amazing how often we worry about the vehicle and not the message. So the second piece, more conversions. There are a couple of ways to get to more conversions. Again, I mentioned there are a lot of strategies. 2 of the most popular, first of all, having a downsell. Once someone has come to you and said, yeah, I don't want your core offer, having something at a lower price is a very powerful way to get more conversions. Right? And the second thing is the drip campaign, meaning a way to keep in touch with people who came in and said no or not now. Because not everybody is in the right place to buy today. And we talked about that when we talked about copywriting last year, and we'll explore that a little bit. But the secret to converting more leads is a compelling offer. And in general, especially on websites, offers are a phone number or a contact form and not much else. I'll just show you a few of them. It's typical, especially in professional services, that's what it looks like, right? But this is the part we talked about last year. In the sale of almost anything of significance, buyers have to go from left to right before they become now buyers. The people who are actively looking to buy, and they're very important, and those are the people you put Google AdWords campaigns around, they're actively searching, and by the way, you pick your keywords, etc., to fractionate those who are ready to buy versus looking for information, signaling that they're somewhere else earlier in the process. But everyone goes from left to right. I think when we talked about it last year, I talked about LASIK surgery, right? When LASIK surgery first came out, nobody knew anything about it. One of the things that we got across is, well, what is this and why is it an important thing for me? Oh, I can see better. I don't have to wear glasses. I don't call me 4 eyes anymore, right? Those are my benefits of ownership. Once they get past that, the next thing they're going to care about is, well, what could go wrong? How expensive is it? Does it hurt? How long do I have to be out of work? How long will it last? Do I get, do I have to have it done over again? Right? What's the risk of me losing my sight? All those kinds of things. Only after they've addressed those things and said, okay, I can afford it, I can afford the time, this sounds like a good thing, then they get into who's the best surgeon? What equipment do they use? What are their statistics look like, etc. This thing is twofold. First of all, when you put your own marketing together, you kind of need to know where your people are. Because, and again, I think this was the example I used back then. If you were putting an ad as a LASIK surgeon into an AARP magazine, chances are they already get what LASIK surgery is and what the benefits are. Doesn't mean you ever completely avoid those kinds of things. But if they haven't had it done yet, they're either they're ready to buy or they're stuck. They're probably worried about pain, cost, etc. So knowing where your people are allows you to focus your message on specifically what objections or issues they have. Right? But for this section we're talking about here today, more conversions, the big issue is that when you do tactical marketing, when you say call me, when you say 20% off if you act today, right, you are appealing only to those now buyers. And those now buyers typically make up something on the order of 1 to 3% of your market. Other people elsewhere in that continuum are ultimately going to get there. There is a fraction that's never going to buy. In the LASIK surgery area, it's the people who don't have eye problems, right, or are blind, right? Okay. But the rest of them may get there eventually. And the reality is, we talked about drip campaign, appealing to 70% of your market instead of 3 is a very powerful thing to do. It's 20 plus times the leverage on what you're putting in your market into. Okay? So, how do you appeal to that whole group, not just the ones ready to buy now? And the answer, it was up there, I kind of flew through it, is information. Because regardless of where they are in that process, they're interested in information. So when we take a look at that same cosmetic surgeon who was getting 35 leads a month with his old Facebook ad, his conversion rate was literally 0. That's why he was asking for help. And what happened was, this was his call to action. Not only did he have a terrible message around envy, but it was call me and do a virtual consultation, right? That appeals to a now buyer, if anyone. The change that was made was this, right? Not only was the message changed, but I want the body I had before I had kids, time to get rid of problem areas on your hips, thighs, and tummy. But the offer, instead of call me, which is called a high threshold offer, they know they're going to get sold. They have to take a significant action. They're going to expose themselves. Give away their email address to get a report that says free eye-opening report, candid answers about mommy makeover. What are the risks? What are the benefits? Will it look natural? You know, find out here. An information offer fundamentally boosts conversion substantially. And it appeals to that whole piece. So that report, the results, instead of the 0% conversion rate, 2/3 of the people who saw that offer for a report responded for the report, and 8% of those became patients because there was a low entry. You want to talk about a high return. You know, at least you know what cosmetic surgery, right? So now his ad at 300 to 500 prospects per month, new leads through his report, 32 new patients at about 20 grand a piece, he's generating $600,000 in increased revenue monthly by getting his message and his conversion rate. And that'd be a nice business to be in, I think. Like blood and guts and that sort of thing, right? The same daycare issue, right? Call to action in the previous approach was, sorry for that, was, here we go, just a phone number. But now what's changed, right? This is all now about only one daycare center focuses on accelerated children, and the offer is a daycare ranking report. Very easy thing to do in lots of businesses. You actually pay someone to go out and call and get prices and ask about staffing level and food and all that sort of thing in daycares or whatever your business is. Create the report, offer it for free. Obviously, in an ethical way, you're going to talk about the places where you're advantaged, right? So, 58 leads in the first week. That were the people who asked for the daycare rankings. 47 of them applied for 18 openings, and they had to shut it down. Okay? Because that report is such a powerful way, it's called a prepositioning piece, to condition people around what's important. And of course, if you're thinking about it, and if you've picked a niche in their case, as they did with focusing on accelerated children, you're going to work on those elements, right? That's how you're going to rank the other folks, right? If someone else did that ranking based on food quality or staff to student ratio or whatever the piece is, it would come out differently and work in that business. So, bottom line is focus on information. A better offer makes a huge difference. And those are two examples of quite significant improvements in conversion percent, right? So, to convert more leads, work on the offer. Consider an information, so make it a powerful offer, consider an information offer if it fits your business, because it makes a huge difference. All right, more transactions. This can be tricky depending on the kind of business you're in, but I'll just give a couple of quick examples. You probably, there are two ways to get at this. One is what's called upselling and cross-selling. You know, the old example from McDonald's, right? An upsell is, would you like to supersize that? Right? And a cross-sell is, would you like fries with that? Right? Simple enough to do. More products and services are obviously a way to get more transactions as well. Whoops. There's a piece that didn't come up. Well, the piece that didn't come up is that the statistics are that 34% of your prospects, when buying, are inclined to buy something else if you offer it to them. And so many people are shy about doing that. But that extra sale is there. You know, so much of internet marketing is built on the fact that, you know, once they've got their credit card out, right? Don't let them get away if there's more you can offer.
Did you say 49%?
34%.
34.
34%.
Okay.
Okay. So we've talked about what these areas. Sorry, there's the 34%. So I remembered it right. So a number of ways to do this. You've probably seen things like this from your auto center, right? Sometimes they sell this card to you. Sometimes, you know, it's just given to you as a frequent customer. Has anyone ever wondered why many places will change your oil and rotate your tires for free? Why do they want to rotate your tires?
So if you need your tire, you go back and get them.
That's true.
You need brakes, let's check the brakes.
They get to look at your brakes. They get the wheel off, and they get first shot at saying, right, your brake pads are down, you got a slight leak, right?
Shops, yeah.
Absolutely.
Shops are legal.
Absolutely. What it is it's an invitation to cross-sell, right, and upsell. The whole idea is to get you in front of a salesperson, and what's really key here is they're offering free services, which puts you in a very receptive, happy mindset to put you in front of a salesperson, right? And this is used in other places. We're going to talk about one more here, but if you have a competent marketing HVAC company, when they come in and they recharge your Freon because it was 110 degrees and you just couldn't stand it anymore, and you finally call them in, they're going to say, would you like to get on our quarterly maintenance program? And we'll come in and we'll check your filters and we'll check your freon levels and we'll make sure there's lube, because you don't want to be in this position again of being down. Right? But is that something that you barely need? But it gets them in to look at your equipment to be able to sell you when the next thing is ready to go, rather than you calling down the list and getting somebody else because your air conditioner's down and you want someone to eat. An example of a place, by the way, that this works, and I'm just going to fly through it because time is tight, is dentistry, right? And very few people are doing it. But the vast majority of the revenue that come from dentists is doing the cosmetic services, the root canals, the crowns, the fillings, the braces. That's obviously orthodontics, right? And it turns out that only 50% of people have dental insurance, where much higher have health insurance. And the reality is most of the people who don't have dental insurance and don't go to the dentist is because of the high cost of those basic services. And so a program that basically says, if what you do is you offer your clean and checkup as a loss leader to get them in, because it's not to minimize it, right? But it's your hygienist's time and not much else, right? You offer for the same $25, come in and have a cleaning and a checkup, and specifically appeal to people who don't have dental insurance. You've got them in for the discussion about the more significant issues, right? And that's where you make your money. So this idea, this is just like we went through. So more transactions, upsell and cross-sell, big opportunity. So are membership programs, reward and loyalty programs, that sort of thing. Okay? Higher prices. I'm just going to talk about one thing here. The key issue about raising prices is creating value. And bundling is a strategy that will let you get at this in a very straightforward way. We're going to talk about literally raising prices later, but getting transaction values up, which is what this one's really about, is all about trying to remove discounting. Bundling is a key way to do that. So sunroom companies, not really very important in our marketplace, but in sunroom companies, this is what you typically see, and in almost all large service companies. So $2,000 off as a discount to try and get you to make a large purchase. Okay. What this company we worked with out of Kansas City did instead was they created, you won't be able to read it, so I'm going to read it to you. It's a free $6,200 bonus package, right? And it says our best offer, get 2 upgrade bonuses, blah, blah, blah. The details aren't here, but they made a deal with a furniture supplier to purchase a quantity of furniture at wholesale prices at $1,600 a set. They gave them a couch, a love seat, 2 tables, a chair, right? High-end stuff that they bought at a substantial discount. And in the end, what do you think is more appealing to a customer? $2,000 off or $6,200 in value that cost this person $1,600, right? They basically added $400 to their transaction by throwing in this piece, and they got away from the idea that they have to discount to get business, right? So bundling is a very powerful way to get transaction value up without having to play with the price. Okay, so one of the secrets to higher prices is a bundling strategy. So last, more profits. We talked about the fact that some profit increase is going to be natural just because you do more volume, right? But when it comes to more profits, there are basically only 2 things you can do. Increase your revenue by raising your prices or decrease your cost of doing business. And there are lots of strategies for doing both. But what I want to talk about tonight, because it is the bane of most small companies' existence, is this issue of raising prices. Easiest way to increase your profitability is simply to raise your prices. And this one says, most small businesses haven't raised their prices since ever, right? It is a terrifying thing, right? And here's a quote from Warren Buffett. I'll read it to you in case you can't see it. It says, The single most important decision in evaluating a business, this is about how he evaluates businesses for investment, right, is pricing power. If you've got the power to raise prices without losing business to a competitor, you've got a very good business. But if you have to have a prayer session before raising the price by 10%, then you've got a terrible business, right? And most of the small business owners I know are terrified about raising prices 10%. They are convinced they will lose business. And fundamentally, it means their business isn't differentiated enough and it's not communicated well. But there's another issue, which is the math behind price increases. And I'm just going to go very quickly through this. But if you have a widget that you sell at $100 at a 30% margin, and you raise its price by 10% to $110, what does that really mean? And what's the break even look like? There's no question that a few people will leave when you raise prices. There's no question. But there are two things to think about. The first is that the ones who leave are most likely to be your price shoppers, who have the least loyalty to start. But the other issue is the impact. Realize is the $10 you added by raising your prices is all profit. It doesn't cost you a penny, right? And as a result, you've got, we were talking about a business with a 30% margin. So if you were making $30 on that widget, buying it for 100, selling it for 70. If you were making 30, you're now making 40. From $30 to $40 is a 33% price increase, right? Another way to look about it is if you want to make $1,000 in profit, you need to sell 33 1/3 widgets if you're selling them at $100 each. But by increasing the price now, you need to sell only 25 widgets. That means you can stand to lose 8 people, which is, right? Basically, it says you'd have to lose 25% of your clients to break even on that 10% price increase. Right? Now, that ratio, by the way, depends on your margins. There are businesses that have really skinny margins, 10 and 20%, where, in fact, that 10% price increase is a huge advantage to them, right? They'd have to lose 50, 60% of their business to break even, right? So price increase is something that always should be looked at. Okay, so I'll sit through that. Key takeaway, look at raising prices. Obviously, costs are important as well, and again, there are a lot of strategies for that. So raise prices, stop discounting. By the way, one other thing I just want to pick up here. Businesses always think about discounting to get their to retain or to attract clients. But there's two facts on here I want you to realize. First of all, the data says prospects will pay twice the price if they believe they're getting 4 times the value. So if you can communicate your value through your messaging, through your bundling, etc., there are plenty of people who will pay twice the price. And the other thing is that the reality is, oops, it's on the next page, the statistics say that discounting doesn't really impact the prospect's buying decision until the discount starts getting to be about 40%, which is why, in fact, so many people are discounting 20 to 40% to try and increase their business. But it is a desperately bad financial thing to do unless you have software like margins. Okay. So it says the closely guarded secret that successful businesses don't want you to know is stop discounting. Value of every dollar you discount. And this is certainly where we focus: is innovate your business, make it fundamentally superior, so discounting isn't a part of your
Okay, and actually, can't you just, I mean, if you're discounting all the time, say 30%, can't you just stop discounting and lower your price so you're beating the competition and still?
Yeah, the answer is yes. Markets are a little funny that way. You know, unfortunately, some markets are just trash. The pizza business, for example, right now has no loyalty, and all people do is coupon shop. Who's got the best deal right now? And no one's been able to put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, actually, didn't JCPenney try something with They're not doing anything on sale. They're just going to have the low prices, and it didn't work out so well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the paradigm in your market is up in the key. So the bottom line is these incremental gains you can create, and there are huge gains that are out there by doing things better. Right? It can be fundamentally transformational in your business. So the points I want to make are, invest your Pareto time in those 5 areas if you can. Underlying them, your marketing message, your niche, and your media are a crucial part of that. Remember, there's a compound, and they're extremely powerful. Part of what I said in the talk description is most of what you're taught about marketing is wrong, and it is because of the focus on the latest shiny object, and it's on tactics. It's about the latest way to reach people. Don't miss the part that says the messaging and the niche is so important. Right? And basically, once you lay that foundation in messaging, then looking at upsells, cross-sells, bundling, drip campaigns, all the other things we talk about, really start to bring that home in a significant financial way. Okay? We're in a no-pitch thing. I'm not going to try and sell you anything, but I am doing something I wanted you to know about. The organization I'm part of, which is a company called Leader Publishing Worldwide, has a magazine called The Six-Figure Coach, and I'm writing an article for that, and it's taking some of the strategies we've talked about today, plus some other ones, and essentially looking at how they pay off in different markets, what the kind of payback is for different kinds of companies.
This is going to be a physical magazine?
Yes. Well, it's a digital magazine. Right? And so what we do is we essentially sit down with business owners. It's a virtual kind of thing. It's done over the internet, talking about the kind of business you have, going through these strategies and building a quick model, like the 5-step profit model with your number of leads, your pricing, your number of transactions, etc., and then go in there and say, what would something like this do? Well, I think we'd take the leads up by 30%. What do you think we could do with this in terms of conversion? And we basically build a model to value these things, which is what we're going to put in the magazine report. So we're looking for folks who are interested, who have a business that's mature enough, meaning revenue generating as opposed to still in our minds, right? Who would be interested in trying to value what these strategies would mean in their business, right? So my partner is in Alaska right now, going to be back next week, and what we've done is we've set aside, I think, five spots for folks who are interested in going through this process. There's no cost, there's no obligation. We're not going to sell you anything. We certainly work with lots of small businesses, but that's not the point. We're trying to value this stuff. If that's something that would be interesting to you, right, let me know tonight. I have a sheet that just asks some details on your businesses. I have 5 spots, and the people we think we can help the most, we will schedule within the next week. But that's
isn't the free ticket waiting?
That's it's the braces at the back end. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, there you go. And by the way, one other thing, we talked about this last time, but in marketing we use a thing called the conversion equation. We didn't talk about that tonight just because time is tight, and I don't know, I've already run pretty long, which is interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. That's the sequence you should go through in any marketing and advertising piece and website, etc. And we've developed, taken it almost to a science where you can grade out your advertising and know whether it will be profitable or not. Because if you don't score a 3 or higher using this evaluator, you need to retool your ad, or you're going to be
In
struggling.
exchange for a business card, would you consider sending that PDF out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And during the session, we're happy to apply it. But in fact, anyone who wants a copy of the slides, if they're useful, I know some people were taking notes, happy to send those out as well. But would love to get a chance to value some of these things in a variety of different kinds of business. So far, we've applied it a lot in construction, in solopreneur businesses, professional service businesses. But we have some really unique, both retail and manufacturing companies here, as well as I know a number of other different kinds of businesses we'd love to look at. through this lens. So if you're interested, just let me know. Any questions? That's it.
Anybody have any questions? So I have a question. Sure. Somebody has like I have a commodity product on Pet Trainer's Choice. For those who don't know, I sell a product it's a dog spray on Amazon. It's about to go ahead and probably I have about 35, 40 units left. So big debate right now, our decision between my wife and I is whether or not we want to continue doing it. We're most likely leaning toward not doing it again. One is, when I first got into the market, I'll put it up real quick. Because I am curious, just your thoughts on, and this is also because people ask all the time, what should I do? And they're kind of in the same boat. Anybody else sell physical products online that have basically competitors that in some cases feel like you're fighting to price war? So this is my spray. And I said it's going to be going out, it's probably going to run out probably by the end of next week, or by the end of this month. So on Amazon itself, if you go to Amazon and buy it, you'll see everybody has pretty much the same product. And it is a price war now that starts to come out with. And of course, Amazon is just great at showing all your competition right below your product. So everybody's pricing is kind of around the same. Now, when it comes to value, when it comes to a product, pretty much I know this product, this first one here, this product, probably and a little lower. So about 4 others. This product here as well. All the same manufacturer, same as the one I'm using too. Product's exactly the same. I think there's been a couple of them that actually bought all the different ones, and they actually say they all spell the same, they all work the same, and they pretty much can tell that we're using the same manufacturer on that. In this case, what would you recommend if I want to try to see if we do decide to go back into it, what kind of value can be added without killing the pricing? Because that seems to be one of the hardest points to do it.
So the product is visually the same, as in it's packaged the same, looks the same, or are you telling me that what's in it is
everybody's packaging is different because we all design our own packaging.
Right.
On that way. Mine is actually it's called Pet Trainer's Choice, and it's dog and urine. No, it's urine and stain. What is it? Odor and stain removal is how I labeled it down here. My niche was to go after trainers and to be strictly for dog. Now this spray actually works for almost any type of pet urine, even rats and all that stuff, rodents and cats. It doesn't work so well as cats, a different type of makeup on cat. But for the most part, it's a very, very powerful enzyme cleaner, and all of us have the same manufacturer. So price points are all about the same, jumping up and down. Only time I say really moving sales is to bring the price down, where there's almost no margin on it. Is there a suggested way to take your strategies that you showed today that might be helpful?
Sure. And one of the issues here is, Amazon is such an open book, right? I mean, certainly, I think your messaging, your bullet points could be more compelling, et cetera, but they could be copied quickly, right? You could market like the trainer and do it in boxes of 4 and include a UV light, or I don't know what would go with it. I mean, UV light exposes where pet urine is to make the cleaning easier. Again, Amazon's is going to expose very quickly the other things you bundle, right? But I'd be looking at lights, brushes, right? A report on the, include with yours something they can't, like write a 5-page report on the 3 crucial, essential pre-treating and post-treating, moves to make when cleaning pet urine to ensure, the lowest odor and the least, whatever you call the where pets go in the same place over and over, right? Something other people can't bundle because you own it, right?
Now, again, that might be a fulfillment nightmare. I have no
No,
idea.
it's a good suggestion. I mean, because we're thinking about different strategies, and the thing is, it does come up quite often with other people that have sold on Amazon. Hey, what can I do? And the bundling is a great idea. We're always looking for other ways to do it. I can't talk about other people's products that I've actually consulted with on that, but we're looking for if there's any other things that we could be missing. Bundling is always adapting the product to be different somehow. The reports.
Could you innovate the packaging somehow, put in a squeeze bottle instead of a spray bottle or something else that makes it?
Definitely could do that, absolutely. And the good thing is the manufacturer is very flexible.
Sure.
As bottle makers, they said just any bottle maker, they can pretty much work.
As a person who's had a pet that urinated all the time in the house, my hugest frustration, and I tried every product, including yours. And the thing that I bundle it with is some kind of rag or a paper towel or something to clean it up with, because once you spray it, and
Great idea, complete system.
yeah,
Yes.
and
Or-
rubber gloves. I mean,
Sure.
stuff like that.
Or turn it into, if you're aiming for the trainer.
Brilliant. I didn't think about that as well. Yeah,
That's a great idea.
And
it is. The whole everything all put together. Huh.
Sure.
Do you have more
a
than one
book on
product,
how
or
to
it's the same?
potty train.
Was that?
Do you just have one product, or do you have more than? like,
I only have one. I only have one. I am going to go into finding a product, but I am going to niche. I mean, the whole thing is I'm not going to go in with the standard protocols everybody else that do it. Find a product from manufacturer, stick your own label on it, and then go fight with everybody else.
So are you writing it yourself, or you're using it as a manufacturer brand?
No, that's my brand. The Pet Trader's Choice, I own the brand name on that. But the manufacturer uses it. Yeah.
So now, at what point can you start selling this on your own website and not have
Oh,
your
I can.
competitors?
I could. The thing is, I didn't want to deal with the fulfillment.
Right.
And
But Amazon can feel like
Then you call me, right?
but the thing, yeah. So I could do all that. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is I didn't want to have to do it. The thing is, shipping is really expensive on that. Amazon cannot. We couldn't be in. They'll take. How much is it? 24-pound box from my supplier for $6 to ship a 24-pound box. So that's what that box to ship to my house cost me $100. The box to get shipped to Amazon was $6. I'm going to go ahead and take it and send it on Amazon. So they sent it that way. That's one of the reasons. So I didn't want to deal with the fulfillment on anything else.
So how are you? I mean, so you're using your website just to drive traffic to Amazon? Do you have any other outlets to get it there, or is it just a website and you rely on Amazon for the product?
Completely without Amazon on that one. The only reason I touched the product is because I bought it from Amazon to have it shipped to me after. It's cheaper that way.
You know what I was thinking, for your product that would make you unique is most of the time as a trainer. But people don't actually, they get that product thinking that's all they need to do. They don't understand that the behavioral training is sometimes will not.
Yes.
That could be a freebie.
No, absolutely.
5 steps.
So when I actually picked up the line or started to go and decide on this line, is I worked at Animal Behavior College. So I had a whole bunch of trainers with me, assistants, and all this stuff. I could potentially utilize my connections there to go and get the word out. And it did well in the beginning. I mean, that's the thing, is that
I have a doggy teeth whitening product.
my problem was I actually let it go. I mean, I didn't focus on the product, and every week a new competitor entered in the market, and they were aggressive. And if had I stayed aggressive, probably could have taken it away.
But I think you're on. What I would do is I think about bundles and niches, right? Because and start working those issues, because you got fragrances, right? You can play with. If you aim at trainers, you could make sample-sized ones that trainers would give out. They get a package, which is a whole bunch of these samples, small sample things, and then a bulk thing they can sell, so they fulfill to their clients and can make a profit. You could actually work with trainers and work a deal out where actually a trainer pays you to put a coupon in your bottle, which is somebody who has an online behavioral training thing that would come with it, right? All kinds of. I would just play with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the messaging probably could be made stronger. You might get copied very quickly, but I think the product could make the messaging stronger.
Yeah.
But why one product?
It was a test. Honestly, it did really well. I think like within what, 4 months, sold over $25,000 worth of product on that one, and it had like a 30% gross margin on it at that. Promotions, and that's with all the promotions and everything on stuff went on top of that. Still came out with a nice profit. I did a second order with all the profits that came off the first order. $1,000 to do a minimum quantity order for that. I had to put it out there. So my debate is, should I do it again? Because now, honestly, I'm losing money. This Amazon storage fees, when I'm only selling 1 to 2, probably every 2 or 3 days now, because the competition is just too aggressive at it. That I mean, if I took a step outside looking at my own business, saying, okay, using everything I would know, what I would do is strictly stick with my website as my primary source of selling, and do everything else: Facebook ads, videos, training, books, hook up with trainers, and all that other stuff that goes on. And then have Amazon as a secondary place to sell, because it's just a hot place to do it. People will recognize it, and you can tell them, buy on my website, it'll be cheaper, or buy it on Amazon, because they have gift cards and they're just used to buying it anyway on Amazon. There's 2 different sources. But
the free shipping on Amazon.
and the free shipping, yes, people will buy it on that one too. It's the work. I don't have the time to go in and put that kind of effort. So Amazon's the easiest way to do that. Right now, that's not my primary focus. Is actually going ahead and finding a product, like I said, that has very little competition, solving the problem, a kit of something like that instead. To put the kit together, though, I would need, again, an assembly. My manufacturer only does the bottle and sends off the bottle. I would need to have a way to get that assembled before it goes back out. Then I look at the cost increases on that. Will it still offset it well enough to do that? It could. And I mean, it depends on how I want. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, the $2,000 to go ahead and remake a fulfillment, we're actually leaning toward no, because what we'd rather do is find a product on Amazon right now that is selling very well, but is missing something. You know, that somebody, like you said, the whole thing. Liquids is very, very heavy. Stay away from something that's liquid, for one thing. And then also go to China. That's another thing I'm going to do. Find a way to do it so that they can actually manufacture it with the adaptation that I want. And then go ahead and have it shipped that way. So it's going to cost more than running. I mean, I have like, I think 4,500 labels sitting in the warehouse at my manufacturer that pretty much they're going to just burn. It was costing me, I think it was like only $200-300 for that whole roll, because we're going to go ahead and be aggressive at it at the beginning. But
Because some brand, some inventory and stuff, your competitors is already there. Now they've got 2 brands competing against themselves.
probably will do that because I already have the system in place.
Sure.
And everything's already, like I said, and the brand's already in place too. Plus we have, you know, the reviews, and people like it. I mean, there's a lot of people still feel like the product itself. Right. Mike, thank you very much. Okay, so we have about 10 more minutes. Does anybody have any other questions? I do have one question for everybody. That's, what type of marketing or information would you guys like to hear about? I am definitely going to go and do one strong Pinterest presentation. I'm going to learn it and then teach it. So, because I haven't found anybody who really, does anybody really know anybody who does Pinterest marketing? And I'm talking Pinterest advertising, not just building boards and going in and using Pinterest, which is part of it, but who knows Pinterest ads? Nobody gets. So I'm not ads though. Pinterest ads are super powerful. So I'd like to find somebody who actually is really knowledgeable in the PPC side of the Pinterest ads, as well as the strategy for both, to go and do that. Because I still have, you know, when it comes to physical product like this, Pinterest advertising is still super powerful. And we still see some of the highest conversion rates are out there when it comes to Pinterest, because especially if a product appeals to the female market, and if they see it on Pinterest, it's like the conversion rates are crazy high on that. So it gets very inexpensive. I don't know if a product like mine, could probably do well on Pinterest
I
too.
do a lot of cleaning, like household cleaning
Yes.
tips and stuff like that. Always. I always get the emails that say, notifications.
Yeah, so something like my, yeah, exactly. Something like my product, you know, like if I made about 4 or 5 different infographics on 7 ways pet enzyme, natural cleaners, non-poisonous, can be used other than cleaning pet things. And, you know, I mean, and legitimately, like, if it can polish, yeah, and that's why it does so well. And, you know, to be honest, I like to say, I'd rather go on Pinterest than on Facebook because of the life hack stuff that's on there. You don't get all of the, other than, but if you have like a life hack board, then you get all of these really cool tips that keep on coming through. They're just a lot of fun to watch and videos that come through. So I actually enjoy Pinterest more than Facebook. I don't go on either hardly at all, but when I do decide to sit down, Pinterest actually has things like this.
Like it has information that's more useful.
Oh, you know, when it comes to marketing, SEO, they have great SEO tips. Excel, because I like to learn more about Excel now, getting hands on a lot. The formulas, shortcuts, computer tech tips, yeah, Pinterest has a lot. So it's something that I enjoy. I mean, I've been debating about buying this course for a while. I'm just going to go ahead and buy it and go through it. Melanie Duncan has have you
I've heard of her.
yeah, I guess she's one thing she's really known for is her Pinterest marketing. It's very powerful. And actually, one of the things she mentioned was attorney marketing using Pinterest.
Really?
Yes, and what she did was fun memes that actually have a message, and also tips or things, and that one became something that she was talking about how a lot of free traffic from and conversions would happen from those type of things.
I'd actually really be interested.
Yeah, but I don't know. Does anybody else have any? Because I want to look. I actually am in an office with some brilliant marketers in every aspect, including Amazon. I mean,
Bring them in.
but the thing, I don't know how many would ever come up, but I think is a lot of people are they're so intimidating to talk to. I mean, it's like, you know, when they say like hang around, like you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, I totally bring on an average. So I try to get to know them for a little while, see what they're willing to go ahead and talk about and share, because they're also like, why do you want to know? You know what I mean? I'm pretty open. Yeah, it's a really different environment than I've ever been in. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're super nice people. They're just their brains are so full of so much information. Their niches that they're good at, like the Facebook marketing people, it's crazy how much they actually absorb and what they're doing and stuff. Because the thing is, when you get more data, you actually learn so much faster and how to adapt things. And, you know, you do one thing in a day, it takes somebody else 4 weeks to learn what they learned in a day from a video. There's hundreds of thousands of clicks and everything that they can watch. They can launch a button and just turn it on for a couple of hours and know what conversion rate they're going to be getting predictably in the future for the rest of the content.
Is there any lower cost version of that that's
The Pinterest?
no of the software that's doing the analytics?
The automated? No, and that's the one thing. It's pretty crazy.
There's an opportunity for
So the big
product.
Exactly.
yeah, the big names out there right now are Marin, Kenshu, and there's a third one that's out there. But if you look at you know, what they call it, enterprise editions that are out there. Now we get solicited all the time. I have different benefits and downfalls. The one that some of the big e-commerce places will use actually integrate Yahoo, Pinterest, Facebook all into this one tool. Yeah, all in one. So you do one adjustment, it actually adjusts Bing, AdWords, and Yahoo all at the same time.
It's a lot of code.
Yeah, but how accurate it is what's amazing. But you do need to have the technical side of it on the other side. Your website needs to have all of its ducks in a row. I mean, you need to have your conversion pixels have to be very, very clear on it. Because the thing is, not today's data. If you click on a landing page and you have 1,700 other products, and you click on 7 other products, and then you get to your final destination, almost all 7 get some credit for the sale in a lot of cases, especially if they go to 2 or 3 pages. And sometimes they come back. If you can track all of that, when the sale is made, then what happens is that every one of those pages gets credit for the sale of some sort. Conversion data will actually start, you can more accurately analyze which pages are helping you convert better because it tracks all of that. It puts it all together and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. And that's why I understand why it's so expensive. I mean, the stuff that's, all of these softwares that are out there are so powerful on that type of data that comes through. The other thing
service
is,
to offer, where you could buy the enterprise and offer service to smaller businesses just for just periods of time. You know, someone.
I want there's got to be someone. So some of the data that others that I've seen have out there is you have taking Google Analytics and all the pages that are being touched on the funnel that's along the way, that they can tell conversions from the landing page to the cart, the landing page to the thank you page, the landing page to even what is it, the payment pages. So the cart, the payment, and they can tell the drop-offs on each one of these and make adjustments to make sure they're maximizing each step along the way. And then also testing, like say if you implement a new payment system on this, or a button that's different, and see what happens to that. Are your conversions going up? But you won't know whether your conversion could have actually been a cart rather than a payment. I mean, you just kind of always
I have a couple topic events for one's video marketing, something this has been a while.
Yes. Okay.
Facebook Live, all of them. Get out. I'm about to say how people just on Facebook Live.
He's in Vegas now.
I don't know, it's back and forth.
Oh, you know
He's
what?
here this next coming Friday.
Okay.
So yeah, he'd probably come in to do something like that.
Oh, if I'm ready for something that you're talking
But
that's a good idea.
so video marketing, and the other one is maybe a how-to on split testing, how to set up split testing like landing pages and things like that.
Okay. That's actually really good too. Okay. So if anybody knows somebody who knows some of these different things, I mean, I'm totally open to learning it, finding out some scrolls, putting it together and say compilation of information, what I got, here's what I've heard or learned, and let's see what comes out of that. But if we can find somebody who actually actively does it, I'll definitely see if I can ask around. I'll find out if I don't know if anybody that works with me down there would be willing to try it this way. Nobody lives up north from Castle. They all come down from the south side or northeast. They're like, you come from where? Was that?
We just do a meeting now.
That wouldn't be too bad. It only takes like 30 minutes down that. Any other questions?
Always writing copy is something that struggles with that. You know.
Yes, any more copy techniques? Michael did a good one last one here.
You know what we could do? We could do like a copywriting workshop. You know, people bring copy in. We could do a session on writing headlines and do review stuff, going from headlines to headlines.
If anybody ever is interested in getting into copywriting like at a higher level, and that's, I mean, you like want to invest some money into what is his name? Ed. What's his name? Also, yeah. So I actually did sign up for his copywriting academy. I'm a member of that thing, and they do monthly webinars as well. If you find it. And even if you if you don't use it for sessions at a time, if you're old, you can also listen to the other ones. But I think his is like about maybe 1,200 or 1,500 now. It is so.
We'll just get a start and taste it.
Yeah. And the bonuses that come along with that, literally by the time you actually get through like the first maybe hour of some things, you can already make copies. These templates that are just super. Yep.
For 404s on websites, do you know if Google will disavow them over time?
You know what? They actually will hurt you in SEO. So, that's one thing that I also highly recommend as well. Go through your site. Screen Fog has the ability to go ahead and look through the whole site for any 404 bad links that you have on there as well. But to check your screening. So I would say, but there's other tools too that will actually scan your site for 404s. Definitely look into fixing those. Either 301 redirect them to a home page or to a relevant page.
Xenu Link Sleuth, free.
Xenu?
Xenu, Xenu.
XENU is another one I think that has a check.
That one in the, what is like the Google Search Console or whatever it is, it showed me it. But I was reading, they were saying that over time, Google will disavow them, but it's one of the things I also read that it will penalize you.
Oh, it's not really it's not a strong penalty. You should fix this, and the more 404s you have, it's not good for yourself. That means people are actually looking at clicking. So another thing you want to do is your analytics. Look at your analytics to see what landing pages people are hitting, especially if you have a 404 ability to track your how many 404s. But take a look at that. Yeah, you definitely don't want to leave them spam. That's definitely some more.
I've had some from like earlier this year, and I've been waiting to see if Google was going to drop them off, but they haven't. It just keeps trying to re-index it. And that's why when I was reading, they were saying they'll disavow over time, but it's still showing up on there.
I really want you to clean it up.
Okay. Yeah, I wish they have like more of a bolt to it. They could just do it all because I have a lot of people, like thousands of URLs, you know, so it's like going through each one. It takes time.
There's a fast tool. I'll ask some of our tech guys, definitely our SCV guys, like he's super high in technologically with tools that are out there to do stuff like that. I'll ask him to see if he probably has some kind of resource that can do that.
Okay.
I can tell you how to fix it. But I think you can also do that through webmaster to console to tell it which URLs to.
Yeah, there's like a little where you can put in a link where you can do that, but it's like, I know on my Shopify site I can do a redirect on it. So usually what I'll do is whatever the link that has the 404, I'll copy that. Yeah. I'll go into Shopify and redirect to my homepage. But I think, I don't know, I probably have like 3,000 URLs, and I think there are about 280 of them coming back to 404. That means I have to go through every single one. I try to find something that's relevant to that product, and I have to go in the store and find it. It would be a lot easier if I could just all maybe go back to the homepage, but
there's probably a way to do that. You have Shopify, but do you also have it on WordPress?
No, it's Shopify.
The only thing about that, also having 404s, is that if you had those pages in existence prior to them going 404, and anybody was linking to them, then those links now go to 404. Yeah. And then if Google disavows it, you've lost all the juice on that. So you really want to make sure you can. It's worth cleaning up. We can get it. I'll check on. I'll take a look at that too. Okay. I don't know if anyone uses a shop, but it might be tools that can do that. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. You want to go ahead and show it?
Yeah. I just stopped by there today. She actually sent us a message telling us this is a new business. So if you're interested in co-working space, they offer that like office space and stuff like that. But one thing that was interesting when I was talking to her was that they have a small group of networking and also training, kind of like what we're doing now. So I just was saying, I was like, it might be some good, cross promotion of just training. They have speakers that come in, financial advisors, all kinds of different people that just speak to educate and learn from each other, kind of like here. So yeah,
it's up by the Walmart or
if they have a great, if you're interested in co-working space, I just threw their information up on the website.
So it's steamwork.center. Yeah, steamwork.center. All right, well, thank you guys very much for showing up. I'll see what I can come up with.
Oh, you want to see one of the websites?
It's all snaps on
too many others.
Still missing one thing.
mobile.
So, good. How are you? Get your mic.
Oh, really?
9 years.
They literally just opened up there.
Okay. What, space line?
Yeah. So it's just like a conversation. They have upstairs and downstairs. They have one more. They are going to be building out. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a huge. They're going to be building out. One more. And the rates are on the.
Yeah. I just happen to know what
I forgot what her name was. Yeah. Oh, I'm in the process of researching by hand. Because it's such a process. So, it's like, I mean, I've done just preliminary search. There's a few that are similar to it. I don't know what it is. I've seen ones that, you know, something very similar to others.
Yeah. So it has to be called.
Yeah. Right.
Business one.
Yeah. That's mine.
Right. Okay.
Thanks, guys. It's a good night.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I've got a packet back.
I've actually been researching a lot about it. It's on Udemy. Yeah, the course, autopsy course. It's just so I can get familiar with it. So I'm making sure that.
Well, it's probably worth doing. If there's businesses. In fact,
I am in jail at work. Yes.
It's on, but I think I might have turned it off. Hopefully I turned it off.